My name is Angela Brown. I'm the supervisor of the information section in the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. I'm sitting in this morning for Christina Sorrento, our chief in IRC. This is the Development Review Committee meeting for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. The first item of today is Sycamore Acres. This meeting is for the applicant to ask any questions that he may have in regards to the comments that they received on Friday. But first, we will have the lead reviewer point out any major issues within the project. One note is that this meeting is live streamed and recorded. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Server, lead reviewer on this one. Before you today is... Hello?
Hello? Can you hear us?
We can hear you, but there's an echo.
Hello?
Do you want to send a message in Teams?
Is that better?
David,
Yeah.
is that on your team? Somebody on your team?
It may be, I'm not sure, but I hear you fine. So it's all good here.
Okay, so
Okay. So is it okay to get started?
all right, so we're going to start. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're looking at Sycamore Acres. The major issues on this one are primarily focused on the lot configuration itself. The two lots, as they're oriented around Pine Tree Road, meet the zoning requirements. In terms of, I guess, major comments, the one thing we'd like to see is the shared driveway extended up as shared to the greatest extent possible. If there's any possibility of providing side loaded access for the homes, that would be good. The only other one is in looking at lot 2, the orientation of the suggested position for the home. It would be nice to see it aligned with the house suggested on lot 1, and also have it be parallel to Pine Tree Road rather than sort of placed where it's at. It's kind of pushed forward and then at an angle that isn't really parallel with Pine Tree Road. Those are the major comments. Other comments pertain to transportation, but I will let our transportation planner answer any questions related to that. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dave, for any questions.
Thank you. Regarding your comments, Jeff, can you give me some insight in why you think the shared driveway needs to be longer? What's the thinking behind that?
The biggest thing is just to try to reduce the width of it and just reduce the amount of pervious surface that needs to be put down. That's the biggest thing, other than having two kind of meandering segments of it. If it can be combined and brought up a little closer, that would be ideal. But
okay, so I think originally we planned it out as a fire department turnaround, and now I've learned that we don't need that in this case, based on Marie's comments. So the apron can definitely be sized down from what we see on the plan. So I think that's in line with what you're looking for.
okay.
And probably we may not even propose 20 feet, maybe 16-foot driveway or something like that, perhaps.
Okay.
Great. Now that does bring up a question though I had is, do we need a shared driveway? I mean, these are 1 acre lots. There aren't really shared driveways in the neighborhood, and really our thinking initially was that it would be a fire department access as well. And so that was the kind of the driving force behind the shared, but now I'm wondering if we should separate the driveways. What would your thoughts be on that?
You're right, there isn't a requirement for them to be combined or shared. I think we're open to.
Okay, so we'll come back with a plan maybe to talk about some more about that.
I mean, on that point, we typically like shared driveways because it minimizes the number of curb cuts on the road. And in this case, you're going to have a sidewalk or a pedestrian bicycle facility. So there's a benefit to minimizing curb cuts. I know DOT is also on the call, and they might also have some thoughts with respect to that, as well as intersection spacing from the closest intersection. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
so let's have them also weigh in on that, that question as well.
Okay. You bring up the sidewalks, so that was my next thing I guess I wanted to talk about. Of course, there aren't any sidewalks in the neighborhood. And I'm wondering, is there the option of a fee payment to a fund rather than building a sidewalk, on this property? Is that something we can talk about?
Hey, Nick Peavy, Up County Transportation. Yeah, so yeah, Pine Tree Road is a neighborhood street. So David, you got my email just a little
Yes.
bit after noon on Friday?
I did, yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Great. So yeah, based on the facilities that are required for that road type, there might be need to add a little bit of dedication to Pine Tree Road. It's currently at I think it's currently at 50 feet, so we might need to get it closer to 60.
Yeah.
To include those facilities, which is sidewalk and swale, because it's an open section road.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it would be, if we could just show that dedication and show the cross section of Pine Tree Road with the required facilities, that's what we're asking for at this time.
This is Rebecca. For DOT, it's an open road section, so it's actually for secondary or it's like 74 feet. So you need to look at the cross section for that you can use outside of the pavement section for the old standards. And you need to look at that and see what you can fit in for that.
So did you just say go by old standards, the 74-foot
For
right away?
for the outside the pavement section, yeah, you should use the outside standards.
Okay.
Dave,
Yep.
just to add to what Nick said, so you'll have to show the cross section with the sidewalk and the swale.
Yeah.
We're also expecting you to construct that sidewalk unless that gets waived at DPS later at permitting. So for our purposes, the sidewalk is going to get built, and
Okay.
that's what we're going to condition as part of this approval, is construction of the sidewalk.
So if it does get conditioned as part of the requirements, does that still allow DPS to waive it later? Would that be part of the condition?
Yes, there are provisions in the code that allow that at permitting.
Okay. Right. Okay. Very good. That's fine.
And if DPS chooses to waive the sidewalk,
Mhm.
they will require a fee in lieu payment.
Right. Understand. Okay. So we're going to plan it out as though it's going to be built.
Yes.
And I know there was one specimen tree that would be impacted by that, and that was part of the forest conservation comments. So we'll take care of that as well. Okay, understood. There was a comment from DOT about truncation, providing normal truncation for the intersection. And I think we have a very large radius here, so the truncation, if it was normal, would actually be inside the current right-of-way. So wanted to hear more about that. What was the thought about that comment?
You just show us what it is, and then we'll take a look at it and make a decision. Show us what the normal truncation is.
Gotcha.
Okay. We're not looking for you to go through an abandonment process.
Okay, good. All right. I think that's it, to be honest, for me. There was no comments about Willow Lane other than showing the standards section, so I assume we're on board. We're not going to improve Willow Lane. Obviously, it's not improved currently, and just kind of leave it the way it is, right?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Dave, was there a reason why the units, just to go back to Jeff's comment, is there a reason why the units are not aligned and why one is tilted and the other one is parallel to Pine Tree Road? Or is that something you can easily address?
I could easily address that. I mean, you notice that the house on lot 2 is parallel to the sidelines. That's really, it has a view back through its own property versus an angle towards its boundary, the side boundaries. That's all, but it's not a big deal. I mean, we can certainly play with that and move it back a bit and make it line up a little bit better with that house. That's fine. And the side loads, I mean, it's a little tight for side loads. But again, these are generic boxes, so we don't exactly know what is going to be built for sure, but we can look at maybe having a side load there. I understand that need for that, or the desire for that, so that's fine.
Great. Sounds good.
And Dave, with the additional dedication, do you think that lot 2 will have enough square footage to meet minimum lot area, or are you envisioning having to realign the boundary between 1 and 2?
Well, it's about 100 feet wide there, I think. Maybe 150, I guess, is what's required in RE1, or 125 maybe. I forget. I don't have that in front of me, but it might come close, actually. It might be very close to needing to maybe adjust that line. So we could potentially break that line once it gets past the house in the back and just have a bit of a jog there to capture some space. But
Yeah, I think overall you're still going to be
Yes,
fine. I think you're going to be fine overall, but you might need to readjust,
yes,
I guess, the boundary between lots 1 and 2,
yeah.
just slightly.
Slightly. I just don't want to make lot 1 obviously too narrow because it has a double frontage there. But we can make it work, I'm sure. Yeah, there's
Okay,
plenty of room there. We'll make it work.
got it.
Okay, so we'll take care of these comments. Anything else we need to talk about? I'm good on my end. Covered everything I wanted to talk about.
No, I'll be reaching out to you, Dave, via email with a schedule, which will include all the dates and all of that. So stay tuned for that later today.
Perfect. Very good.
I think that's all from our end.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Excuse me 1 second. Can you hear me? I hear an echo. 1 second. Brown. I'm the supervisor of the of the information section of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. I'm sitting in for Christina Sorrento, the IRC chief. This is the development review meeting for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. We're on our second item, which is Nepal Education and Cultural Center. This meeting is for the applicant to ask any questions that they may have about any of the comments that they received last Friday. First, I will turn it over to the lead reviewer to provide any information about major issues in regards to the project. Please note that this meeting is live streamed and recorded.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Philip Estes, the lead planner for this application. As Angela mentioned, the applicant's team has the planning department's comments as well as the external agency comments. What I can do first is just highlight the planning's comments that we have, and then we can either turn over to the applicant if you have specific questions you want to discuss, or we could also ask the other agencies to provide their comments. First, as I mentioned, you have you've provided our technical comments in terms of the subdivision. So what would be a preliminary plan amendment. So what you're proposing, as you probably know, there's an existing preliminary plan that approved a very specific use, the country inn restaurant. And so we've communicated earlier that to move forward with a change of use, you'd have to amend that existing preliminary plan. So I provided some technical comments, and I don't know if I really need to go into those. One of the major comments that we have in terms of the site layout concerns the large parking lot located between proposed structures and Snowden Farm Parkway, the view shed. So we'd like to see that located behind, to the side, reduced in size, broken up in one way or another, so that parking lot isn't the prominent feature from Snowden Farm Parkway. Secondly, there are a number of major environmental comments, and I can turn that over to Doug and he can highlight those. And then next we can have Justine from Transportation highlight some of his comments.
Good morning. I'm Doug Johnson, environmental planner. My comments really fall into two categories. One is that there's no stream shown on this property, so you need to show the stream with the stream buffer. That's going to limit some of what you can do on this property. Additionally, the site is in the Clarksburg SPA, so you need to strive to limit the imperviousness on the property, and you need to demonstrate that you're reducing it to as much as possible. Those are my two big issues. Do you have any other questions about the comments themselves?
From the environmental, we have 1 second, please. I have a list of things here. I'm trying to. I think one of the comments was around the driveway to avoid the stream buffer, the 100-year flood plan. That was an existing feature. Existing driveway. We just expanded that further north to make it accessible.
But well, my comment in that regard had nothing to do with the 100-year floodplain. What you're not showing is the stream and the 125-foot stream buffer. Environmental guidelines dictates that you can't put construction within a stream buffer. So even though you're using the existing drive, you're modifying it, you're constructing it, that's going to have to be moved outside of the stream buffer.
Okay. And so on your comment about, reducing the impervious area, how do we go about showing that? Like, we'll be removing the existing driveway where it's not applicable, but we are adding the new buildings. So any suggestion on what you'd like to see there on the effort we put to reduce the impervious area?
Well, the mulch gravel path has to come out because gravel is an impervious surface under zoning ordinance. Reduce parking as much as possible, reduce drive aisle widths, reduce the entry drive itself, reduce the buildings as much as possible, remove superfluous structures that don't need to be there. You got to sort of think outside the box. And you'll need to supply me with an impervious surface plan demonstrating how you are meeting the goal of reducing imperviousness as much as practical.
Okay. One of my engineers just asked if we need to get existing impervious area verified.
Get existing impervious, what was the last that?
Just verified that, how much impervious area there is now. Does that need to be verified so that we can show, okay, we're adding these additional buildings, but we're also reducing the existing impervious area?
That's not going to help you. If the existing structures are being retained, they have to be added into the impervious amount. That you're removing them, I mean, you don't get credit for it. What you do get is that if you remove 10,000 square feet of imperviousness, you get to, use that space, so to speak. Now, understand that this portion of Clarksburg SPA has no impervious cap. So we strive to reduce the imperviousness. I wish I could give you a cap to shoot for, but it just doesn't exist here.
Okay. And then on the walkway around the property, we don't plan to put any gravel on it. It's just, a primitive trail with short grass. That should be okay, or it's just for people to stroll. We don't plan to make it impervious at all.
Right. Yeah. What we do allow within conservation easements and within stream buffers are natural surface trails, which essentially are mowed paths.
Yeah.
That's permissible.
Okay. Okay. I think I got everything on the environmental aspects of it.
Okay.
Well, before we move on from environmental, let's talk about the SPA water quality plan that you're going to have to come up with. I think my name is Mark Etheridge. I'm with Montgomery County DPS Water Resources. Andrew Kohler, I think, is online. He's our SPA coordinator. If there is an existing water quality plan out, you'll have to do a revised water quality plan. It's a conceptual plan. If there isn't one, then you'll have to do a new water quality plan for this preliminary plan revision. Andrew can lead you through those, and he can give you his information. You can contact him later. But there'll be a preliminary meeting that Park and Planning and DEP and DPS attend with you. There'll be some meeting minutes taken, and we'll talk about some of the things that Doug just outlined will be part of that meeting and that process.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I had a question about the parking lot, Philip. Can we address that real quick?
Sure, go right ahead.
Yeah, so we had a preliminary review with the Historical Commission on when we were applying for the additional structure that we were trying to add. If you're aware of the statues that we were trying to add, and we went for a approval, and we had gone for a preliminary approval at the historical commission, and the neighbors around our property, they came to the hearing, and they had concerns about parking lot being in the back when we were had people park in the back. And so during the preliminary review meeting, the historical commission suggested that we put the parking lot in the front. And that's when we moved from our initial plan of having it in the back to the front. What do you suggest? How do we go about it next, and how does the concerns from how do we address the concerns from the neighbors?
Well, we would, I mean, that's our position from planning's perspective, is that we would like to see the impacts of that parking lot reduced from the view shed from Snowden Farm Parkway. And that could, we're happy to explore alternative designs, but that could be locating a portion of it somewhere else on the site, or increasing landscaping, or using the existing topography to help obscure the parking. But there may be other options to explore. But we do understand and want to work with the neighbors' concerns as well. So we're happy to work with you on some design alternatives. If you get to the stage where you want to submit the preliminary plan amendment. Does that help you? Does that help?
It looks like Pramod has a hand raised. He's our engineer.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I have some questions about this parking lot. So, we have been to Historical Preservation Commission several times about where to locate our parking areas. So our original plan, like Mohan said, it was on the rear of the building. Because of neighbors complain, so they don't want any car park or any noise around the shared boundary. So then we went to HBC's meetings with our planner. Okay, we want our parking lot at the frontage of the property, and I think they are okay with that. So coming back to your question, we have already planted some boundary privacy trees. So these parking lots will be camouflaged behind those trees. So looking from the Snowden Farm Parkway, you'll see some part of it, but you'll not see the entire parking lot. And then dispersing the parking areas around the properties, I believe that will increase our impervious areas because we have to provide the access roads to those lots. So trying to minimize some impervious areas, new impervious areas in this property.
Oh, I heard some of that, but like I said, we're happy to work with you on design alternatives, and we'd be curious to see other design options that you explored. But at this point, that would be our comment on the parking lot. Jeff, I don't know. Do you have anything else you'd want to add to that?
No, I'd agree with what you're saying, Philip. The concern we have, I appreciate the feedback that you're sharing about the neighbors having concerns about the location of the parking. I think exploring pushing the sanctuary building forward and perhaps tucking the parking behind that might be one way to still begin to accommodate that idea. The parking could be to the side and to the rear of the sanctuary. The sanctuary could be designed in such a way that it helps to hide visibility from the main road. I think, providing screening is great. Any landscape materials you can provide them along the property lines as well as with the neighbors. That will help to address some of their concerns. But like Philip said, we'd be happy to work with you on coming up with a solution that helps to address this comment.
So is the question here is you guys don't want to see the parking space in impervious area in front of the Snowden Farm Parkway, or you just don't want to see car parked in the parking lot? because our business is such a different than any other commercial building properties, that we only have certain number of cars on the weekend only. Weekdays it will be a rack and lock. So, maybe 3 or 4 cars on the weekdays.
I don't know if we're not here to explore the actual design alternatives. We're just providing you our comment. And like we said, we're happy to explore other design alternatives should you choose to file the application.
Okay, thank you.
Ram Shrestha has his hand.
Yeah, I also have some question. Yeah, for the record, I'm Ram Shrestha. I'm the volunteer professional engineering helping on this preliminary plan. I just want to emphasize that the region, this site is under the SPA special protection area, and we have been told that we have to minimize the impervious area. So that's the reason we came to have a parking lot in the front. So we'll have a minimum driveway through the site, so we don't increase the impervious area. And this, if we provide the parking lot in the front, we'll have a less impervious area. That's the reason for having this one. And we also have a SPC was agree on this one too. And I also have another one question. There was a little bit contradiction on the comment. We are trying to minimize the impervious area. If I'm not wrong, there was somewhere we have been requested to provide the sidewalk connection from the Snowden Farm Parkway to the parking of the property, which is gonna increase the impervious area. And most of our people gonna travel through the car. So can we remove those sidewalk requirement for the connection?
That that specific, this is Justine with Transportation Up County. That specific comment was made by the MNCBB staff.
Yeah.
Like when we look at a plan, we try to find as many connections as possible. You have an existing side pad, which will potentially provide a connection for pedestrians that come all the way along Snowden Farm Parkway. And that's why I made that comment about that connection. It is certainly something that we can talk more about and we can explore if impervious is an issue moving forward with this application.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And just to add, as with any application, like Justine said, we need to address pedestrian and bicycle circulation in addition to vehicular circulation. So, those are part of the findings that we need to make, findings of approval. And so hence our comments and recommendations. If you don't provide the sidewalk, you still need to address pedestrian and bicycle circulation on your property, and how does it connect to the surrounding infrastructure.
Yes, and I will add to that. The sidewalk is something that we would like to see.
Yes.
Just we're talking more about like if we run into the issues that impervious is an issue, then we can work some of the requirements out.
Okay, so the next question we have is around the water and sewer. Currently, the property has sewer, our own septic tanks. There's 2 septic tanks, and then there's another area on the north west corner approved for septic. And we're also on a well water. One of the comments was to have us connect to the WSSC line on Snowden Farm Parkway. Our preference would be to stick with the existing well and septic. Is that something that we can proceed for this size of plan?
Yeah, this is Tim Williamson from Environmental
Yeah.
Protection. Yeah, in our comments, we listed that your plan to use well and septic is consistent with the water and sewer plan. So if you refer to if you see back in those comments,
You'll just need to apply for an exception for the septic system to use that existing system. Mr. Sukup emailed you the exception application, or
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly who received it. And then, yeah. And then the well, it's consistent with the plan, so the well is fine as well.
Okay, and then so another question we had was there's a lot of comments around providing cross section of Ridge Road, a lot of comments around like this property front faces with the Ridge Road, but that was before the Snowden Farm Parkway was built. So right now, as you can see in the design here, it crosses our property in the middle, and then we basically the east side of Snowden Farm Parkway. That's just an easement that we provide to the electricity utility company. So we don't plan to do anything there other than just adding more trees if we need to, based on the forest conservation plan. So do we still need to do all of those things around the providing details on how we plan to connect to Ridge Road?
Yeah, this is Justin. Yes. So actually, the property has frontage like on both sides of Snowden Farm, Farm Parkway. Right now, I'm just only providing the requirements under the Complete Street Design Guide. So I'm just outlining the things that you need to show in the cross section, and later on we can talk more about it if the application comes. But I just like outline the right-of-way dedication, and also the requirements that the Complete Street Design Guide asks for based on the road classification.
Is there anyone from DOT on the call that has any comments?
Yes, this is Billy Whalen. I had comments about they didn't provide any dimensions for existing proposed right-of-way, pavement width, etc. So that's just something that'll need to be more detailed at preliminary plan.
Okay. Anything else with DOT?
We had a comment in there about we want to see how the trips will be arriving and leaving from this facility. If there's not a TIS required, then we'll need to see an operational analysis showing where the trips will be coming from.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Billy. We have about 5 minutes left, applicant. So maybe we should.
I just had a follow up on the TIS real quick. There was a comment that submit either TIS or exemption. And we were trying to do some research on what it looks like. Can you help us with the policy on who can get exemption? So the nature of our business is that we don't get regular traffic in weekdays. People come and go as they wish. It's not like an assembly during the weekdays, and even on weekends it's like that. And we have a few events, like 10 to 12 events a year. That's when have a lot more people, and those are all on weekends or evenings. So I just have a question about like how to get an exemption or on that, or does this apply to us?
Yes. So if you qualify for an extension, you will need to examine, or your traffic consultant will need to examine if it goes below the 15 net new trips. If it goes above, then you will need to do a traffic impact study. But if not, then you will need to file a traffic exemption statement. But that's something that your traffic consultant should look into if you either has to submit a TS or a TIS.
Okay. I would like to, Marie, I'd like to give you an opportunity to provide your comments before we close. If you're there.
I am. I believe they have my comments, just that you must provide fire department access, which is 20 feet wide, paved, impervious to within 50 feet of main access door for each of the buildings you are proposing to build. So that needs to be addressed.
So
Yes.
quick follow-up on that is, does our current design with the two-way traffic separated by island, is that okay with fire department, or each side has to be 20 feet wide, or can we have like 10 feet on each side of the island there in the driveway?
So fire department access can never be less than 12 feet wide for any reason. If you have no buildings in the area, we could certainly look at doing 12 feet on either side, but I think that's going to unnecessarily impact your impervious surface. So that's something that something we can look at. I'll need a little more information to give you a better evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Quick question for the Maria. We are planning to use the water supply from the private well, and our fire hydrant is on the Snowden Farm Parkway, which is like around 600 feet from the farthest structure. So do we need to have a fire access water supply? Is that
It's very likely. It sounds like your occupant loads for these buildings are going to be big enough that the buildings have to be sprinklered. If they, well, there's two code provisions here. One is if you sprinkler any of these buildings, they're going to have a fire department connection on them, and code says you must have a water supply within 100 feet of each of those fire department connections. If you don't sprinkler any buildings, you still must provide a hydrant or a water supply within 400 feet of end of truck travel. So that 600-foot measurement is not going to be sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excuse me, with this being a concept plan, this is the end of this particular application. So if you want to go any further, we suggest you meet with the team and all the comments that you've connected with and set up a meeting outside of this. But this is as far as this application goes.
Yeah, we understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
But I'll start over. I'm Angela Brown, the supervisor of the information section in the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, sitting in this morning for Christina Sorrento, the IRC chief. This is the development review meeting for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. We're on item number 3, the brownstones at West Barge Square. This meeting is for you, the applicant, to ask any questions that you may have in reference to any of the comments that you received last Friday. First, we'll start with the lead reviewer, who will give you an overview of any major issues within the project. Please note that this meeting is live streamed and recorded.
Thanks, Angela. Good morning. Adam Bossi, lead reviewer for the Down County team. We transferred our comments to the applicant last Friday, and just as a very brief high-level summary, we identified kind of 6 categories of comments. Those had to do with forest conservation plan and stream restoration, clarifications, internal street public frontage design items, the MPDU requirement, recreational amenities, conformance with the underlying preliminary plan, and then just some general site and building design questions and clarifications. Here in the room with me are Grace Bogdan, Katie Mancarini, Ariel Zalea, I hope I got that correctly, and from the planning department, and Sam Farhadi from DPS. So we'll let you folks take it away with your questions. Like I said, it'd be to you, Erin, or Andrew, or someone on your...
I was thinking Kevin was going to jump in, but I'm just making sure he's on there. Kevin, are you or Andy going to take the lead?
I am, but I was just taking a back seat here. I'll let you guys drive until I'm needed.
Okay. I mean, we can go through one of the things right off the bat more in my wheelhouse is the question about the MPDUs. The preliminary plan was actually pending when the law changed in 2018. The law has grandfathering language that any application that was pending at that time is grandfathered under the old provisions that only require the 12.5%, and that any applications that follow can continue with that grandfathering. So that's why we're only providing 12.5%.
Do you know when that was? Just because the sketch plan approval also had some language on that point. I think that dates back to like 2017.
I think the preliminary plan was filed in 2017, correct?
No, so the underlying, there was a sketch plan approval too that also spoke to that.
That was abandoned. The sketch plan was abandoned.
Oh, the sketch plan was abandoned. Okay.
Yes. And I can provide more details. I mean, I have the bill number and all that stuff, which I can do in the DRC comments, or if you want it sooner, I can certainly email it all to you.
I think that'd be helpful if you could email that over to us, and I believe it was Adrian was the reviewer from DHCA on that, just so we all circle up on that point and make sure we're going in the right direction.
And then I think most of the other stuff is more technical, Kevin. And when we talked yesterday, I thought Andy was going to put together an outline that you were going to go from.
Yes, I didn't get the complete memo, but that's okay.
Sorry, guys.
So I think, there were a couple of things I just wanted to highlight on the forest conservation plan, since that had a lot of meat to it. As it relates to the back parking lot, the intention, there's existing board-on-board fences along those rear single-family houses. And the intention was to pull the FCE easement to the east of that fence line, and then give that property to the neighbors inside, outside the fence line, I guess, outside of our fence line. And so the homeowners would not be encumbered by that FCE. One of the things that we found subsequent to the preliminary plan is that the slope easement for State Highway had been extinguished. So that allowed more area to be included in the forest conservation easement area, that dashed line that you see there. So the resulting math is that, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're slightly larger than what was originally contemplated for the FCE area. So I just wanted to highlight that little nuance. And of course, there was a lot of discussion about the roadside ditch and the enhancements to that ditch. We spent tremendous effort during the preliminary plan reaching the condition that was included, which requires invasive species management, bank stabilization, and stream enhancement. And
stream restoration.
No, enhancement. There's not a requirement for restoration.
We may have to double check what was the condition per that case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The condition clearly, and that's where it was particularly written in a certain way. So we want to make sure some of the DRC comments went further than what was envisioned by the condition. So we want to make clear that it was a slash. It was bank stabilization / stream enhancements.
Yeah,
and we think that's.
And the report was to be prepared by a firm that was was a stream restoration type of firm, but the intention was not that the ditch was to be restored, but that what could be done to enhance it.
So I think so. We may have to look, search and look with legal team. How they interpret this section, because to our understanding is that the whole easement will be basically removed and then do the restoration project.
So I'm not sure what you mean by the easement removed. So the ditch is in the state highway right of way.
Sorry, I didn't mean remove. Clear, basically. It will count as a clear because you will have to implement a restoration project.
So again, the way the condition was crafted was that the bank area on our property needs to be stabilized where there's evidence of erosion and invasive species management, and so on, as well as the remediation of the parking lot so that it could be supplemental planted. The roadside ditch, which is in state highway right of way, we were going to look at what could be done to enhance it, help it, but was not a restoration project. And I think that historically, if you talk to staff that was involved in the preliminary plan, that you can get the historical context on that. Probably need to have a follow-up meeting. The only other thing I'd like to comment on is that similar to the arborist report for phase 1, we think that a narrative from this stream restoration firm discussing the steps that will be taken to do those things to meet the condition, we'd like to think that that would be adequate for the final forest conservation plan as to some of the more detailed final design elements that were kind of indicated in the comments.
So the arborist is not a consulting restoration.
I didn't say, I said similar to the arborist in phase 1, who provided a narrative for some tree save measures, that a similar type of narrative approach would be provided to meet the condition for the site plan and the and final forest conservation plan.
For trees, yeah, that would make sense. But for the other section of restoration, stream enhancement, that will definitely need the special consulting company report. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Don't disagree. So that was the main parts on the forest conservation. Andy, Aaron, would you like to talk about private streets and alleys?
I do have one more thing that I would like to mention. Oh. So based on the new changes in the law and these images that we have on the screen, so if you decide to dedicate the portion of the lot number 8 that is within the easement, you will require to to ask for variance because that section is considered as a forest and it is within the stream buffer. Therefore, if we want to clear any section within the stream buffer, you will have to request a variance. So just keep that in your mind, that you will be okay if you do 7, 6, 5, and 4. But if you do 9 and 8, you will have a conflict over there. So, and that's something that the environmental team might not be willing to support because, again, this is a stream buffer that we have to protect. And just because the neighbor is encroaching, it's a very complex and delicate topic. So,
wait, why? I'm sorry, just for clarification, why is it assumed that we would? You're assuming we would give that to the property owner?
Behind the fence.
Yeah, behind the fence. Yeah, that's part of the easement that is forested. It is within the stream buffer. Therefore, if you're trying to dedicate the land to the owner, you will have to request for variance.
But if we don't dedicate it, if we keep it in the ownership, then we're fine.
Yep. But you would be forced to remove the fence from that lot. Because now, go ahead.
I was just joking that obviously we don't want to rile up the neighbors, but yeah, we'll have to discuss that.
That's it. Those are the main concerns that we have.
So yeah, that one seems like we're just creating a big problem for everybody, right? We can't. You're not going to allow us to give it to the neighbor, but we have to go and take the neighbor's fence down. It feels like everyone's going to be angry.
Yeah.
Is there a better solution that makes everyone happy?
Well, that's unfortunately that's in the law, so that's something that we cannot.
But you said there's a variance process. Is that, but that you wouldn't support it?
It would be hard for you to justify, and that's one of the point. Why not to this neighbor and why to the other? Yes. So you will have to go to the board, and then the board may want to decide, what would be the next step for that.
But it sounds like you would not support that to the board.
That's correct, because it's an easement, it's a forested buffer, and we would like to protect that section. So because it will be counted as a clear, so.
Aaron, you and I can talk about it, but why couldn't the owner protect it? I mean.
Well, so why don't we, I guess I would suggest I think there were other environmental issues that we needed to have another meeting. Why don't we add this to that agenda and then.
Okay.
Follow up.
Sounds good.
It's getting back to Kevin's point, there was also comments about potentially making the private alleys within the project private streets. I think the issue is, as you can see on this plan, the lots along what is now, I guess, Brookside extend into that alley, and we need that for minimum lot size. So that's why we had been proposing an alley system.
Are you talking to me? Can you repeat the whole question? Sorry.
Well, it wasn't. It's a lot-ish. I don't know who's speaking, but we're not talking about forest stuff anymore.
Was comment? Yeah, and I think that may have been one of my comments, and it was trying to clarify if you were proposing that the roadway in there is alleys or a private street. And I think yes. More relative to street trees, canopy coverage, that type of thing. I think there was an odd footnote in the statement of justification that caught my attention.
Okay, well, we can clear that up, but that's why it is what it is. Okay. What else did you want to cover, Kevin?
I guess the other one was Katie's comment about complete streets on River Road. Mm-hmm. We had, again, spent a lot of time with the realignment, and all of the frontage improvements are complete. at this time. And, you know, there was no pedestrian network to the north of Brookside on that side of River Road. And so we spent a lot of time working on the intersection design and the crossings and what have you, and the deceleration lengths and the turn lanes and so forth in coordination with State Highway and with DOT and transportation planning staff. And this was essentially the solution that was arrived at then, and like I said, has since been constructed. So we don't think that revisiting River Road is something that should be necessary.
I think what I need, Kevin, is just more justification. There was like a sentence in the SOJ that kind of just said, like, because the good news is that the frontage improvements on Westward Avenue and on Brookside comply with the master plan and the Complete Streets Design Guide. So that's an easy check the box. But River Road really needs an explanation for why it doesn't, why there aren't frontage improvements along there. So I just need more justification. Does that help?
Okay. Yep, that's fine.
Oh, one other thing is I'm just double checking the list. There was a question about the recreational calculations and the credit that was being taken for improvements across the street. I think the timing of that is much closer than you think. I can let Kevin might know more particularly, but I believe that Regency is starting to pull permits for Springfield Park in the next few months.
Yeah, the intention to build Springfield Park is for late summer, hopefully as soon as August, in conjunction with the internal street network of West Bard Circle and so forth. So we believe that it essentially will be an existing feature that the developer's providing.
If you could bring that timing info into the application, I think that would be helpful. Because those guidelines talk to about like existing features, not stuff that's planned but yet to be delivered. So I think we're on track to look at this, I think, for existing, probably by the time we're moving ahead with this.
Very good.
And I think those were all the high points, unless anyone else on the team.
While we had Katie, we also wanted to clear up the suggestion for 5 foot or 6 foot wide interior sidewalks as opposed to 5 foot.
Yeah.
I know that over on the phase 1 portion of it, we had the 5 foot sidewalks as well, and EYA's typical program is also 5 foot sidewalks. So we wanted to push back on that recommendation and keep the 5 foots.
You are welcome to. It's just we prefer 6 feet. We think that that's our minimum standard because it allows for a comfortable passing distance, especially if you're using a stroller or a walking assistance device. That said, these are interior streets that are private, so you get to do what you think is best. We just want to be on record saying what we think is best. So
fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else from the team have anything? Okay, so it sounds like we need a follow-up meeting on environmental issues, forest conservation issues. Aside from that, I think most of the things can be handled in responses. I will, in the interim, send over the MPDU background.
Awesome.
But I think that's it from us.
Anybody else here have any other comments, things to discuss? All right, so Erin will follow up about scheduling the.
Yeah, Erin, we'll follow up. We'll schedule a meeting, get with you with some times and figure out who needs to be in that meeting and send you an invite.
Perfect.
You can let us know from your team who you think needs to be there also.
Yeah, if you just send me the times, I can coordinate on our side and make sure the appropriate people are included. Okay, well, thank you so much for your help, everyone.
Thank you all.
Great. Good to almost see everybody.
Thank you.
Supervisor of the Information Section of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. I'm sitting in this morning for Christina Sorrento, the IRC Chief. This is the DRC meeting for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. We're on item number 4, ELP Bethesda at Rock Spring, Phase 1B amendment and Phase 2. This meeting is for the applicant to ask any questions that they may have regarding the comments that they received last Friday. First, I'll turn it over to the lead reviewer, who will point out any major issues within the project. And please note that this meeting is live streamed and recorded.
Thanks, Angela. This is Parker Smith, the lead reviewer for this project and in Mid-County. We didn't have any really major or concerning issues. I think we had a lot of sort of cleanup and clarification of certain elements, and I think the design team provided some comments to sort of refine the design of some of the key architectural moments throughout this throughout Phase 2. So yeah, overall, I think we're pretty happy with this application, but again, wanted to sort of clarify and clean up a few parts of it. So I'll turn it over to the applicant for any questions they have about our comments.
Thank you, Parker, and thank you, Angela. Pat Harris with Alert Early. We appreciate the comments. By this point in time, you guys have seen this project many times, not the details of the Phase 2 site plan, of course. So we have a handful of comments that I'll go through. I do think that we will be in need of a follow-up meeting for design purposes. And we can talk about when that can occur after I go through the list. I'm going through, this is based on the DRC comments, the narrative. We didn't have any comments on the amendment sheet. On the Phase 2 sheet, the first comment, which was reference number 11, it had to do with a Pepco easement. And it said a request for a Pepco easement. We're providing a PUE along Fernwood Road, but then once we get into the site, the power's coming into the site to a medium voltage unit, and we don't believe, which is a private facility, so we don't believe that there's any additional easements needed. And I don't know, likely Pepco is probably not, well, it wasn't Pepco's comment actually, but anyway, if there can be confirmation that that easement is not needed, that would be helpful. And that comment was made by, it was Pepco actually. So is anyone from Pepco on the line? Doesn't sound like it. We'll follow up with them separately. The second comment was from DHCA about the MPDUs. In connection with Phase 1, we entered into an affordable independent living unit agreement with DHCA, and it was intended that that agreement would then follow through to the subsequent phases. And there's a provision in the original agreement saying that the substance of the initial agreement will be carried forward. So, Maggie, we will be pursuing that similar type agreement. One of the things that agreement said is that there's not a requirement to provide 2-bedroom MPDUs here. And so our intent is to provide 1-bedroom MPDUs, and those units will be identified in connection with the AILU agreement, which will be needed prior to issuance of building permit, obviously.
Yeah, I think that we had discussed as part of the first phase of this project that it's just important to see the MPDUs at this stage. We understand that we're going to enter back into that AILU agreement, but as part of like just ensuring that the MPDUs are going to be provided, it'd be beneficial to see those numbers at this stage.
Well, we were remiss and we didn't put on the cover sheet, so we will do that. But we don't need to, at this point in time, identify the location of those units, right? That needs to be done in connection with the agreement.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, so we were remiss and we will amend the cover sheet to make sure that it's clear that we're providing 15% in connection with this phase. That's what you're asking, I think.
Yes, that works for us.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Then in terms of the interior plaza, there was a comments about trying to green that up a bit, but a couple things with that plaza. One is it is designed the way it is because it's needed for fire access. And then second of all, there's limited soil depth there. So I don't think we have the ability to bring in more canopy trees. We will look to see how we could further green it up. But I think when we meet to discuss some of the architectural comments, we'll want to talk about the design of the interior plaza as well. Then the next comment that we wanted, and this is comment number, a number of these are related to comment number 27. It had to do with the entrance on Rock Ledge. So if you can take your cursor
Pat,
there.
Yeah,
Natasha has a
yeah,
response.
this is Natasha. Going back to the interior plaza, like one
Yes.
question staff has, like, we are not clear if that plaza gonna be curbless or the line indicating around the plaza, there's a curb there. So is there any like a separation between the sidewalk and the plaza or not?
I believe, but I'm going to let one of the design people confirm that it is curbless, but it was differentiated both with pavers and bollards.
Okay, so maybe we can discuss like, I understand that you said there is no soil volume, but we definitely, it's a big area and there is no green there. So we can talk with your landscapers and design team when the time comes to see how we can soften the edges a little bit.
Okay, Craig, did you want to say something with respect to that?
No, I just wanted to agree with you. What you said was correct.
Okay. Yeah, so Natasha will make sure that we can
Sure
focus on that when we meet. Okay. Then the next one was the garage entry. So one comment was to move the entry, and that is not feasible for a number of reasons. And I'm going to let Tim from HCM explain that.
Yep. Hi, Pat. So the question is the entrance sort of at the top left of the site. And right now that entrance ramp going into the garage is located between 2.3 and 2.4. On 2.4 at the top, that's basically the backside of the retail, so it's a solid wall. And on 2.3, it's the area that butts up to the ramp is all service areas. So we really wanted to locate that ramp where you're not going to have residents looking into the ramp and looking out on it. And all along the face of 2.3 are balconies, and some of them are walkouts, some of them are balconies. So if we moved it, we'd really be losing that feature along the streetscape and for the residents. If we moved it to the horizontal road, Rock Spring, anywhere along there, if we located the ramp along there, we'd probably lose about 30 parking spots inside the garage due to the ramp location coming into the garage, which would cause us not to meet the required parking requirements for the building. And I do think that that entry will have doors, so so it will be closed off the majority of the time. There are speed doors that come up and down only when a resident's coming or going.
And I would note, like in any CBD, you have garage entrances all over the place. I mean, so the fact that it's on, closer to Fernwood Road, I think that in and of itself shouldn't be a negative. And as Tim said, I think we can mitigate at least partially your concerns with the fact that it will be a closed door, and we can provide you details of that when we meet.
Yeah, sure. Pat, this is Natasha again. We can discuss that on the design meeting, but we thought that that garage entryway is too close to the major intersection of Fernwood, that like one of the northern gateway that you're coming in, and the way that the road is kinking is like, it looks like it's gonna be very exposed. So we just thought that like visually it's gonna not creating an appealing entryway to your development. That's what we thought, like if it's moves further down. But I agree also with Tim that we don't want to like lose parking and kind of like damaging the streetscape. But to the extent that we can minimize or narrowing down, I think also Richard had some comment for transportation regarding the
sidewalk kind of like align with the extension of the sidewalk when the sidewalk gets to the driveway. So those are some like a detail that we can discuss in the design meeting next week.
Okay, yep. And then, and I'll just put this bug in your ear, and again, we can talk about it later. In terms of the width, you know, you keep in mind the population that this is serving. We believe that the width of these driveways are as narrow as they can be, given the fact that you're going to have people, older people driving up and down them. So we just think that it's designed to serve the population, you know, that's going to be living here. But we can discuss more when we meet on that one.
Sure.
And then sort of relatedly, there was a comment about the design of the aprons for the driveways. And Richard, I think that may have come from you, and I just wanted to confirm that the complete streets provision that you're talking about.
Yeah, you're talking about clearly delineating across the driveway, so it maintains.
Yes. Was it the one that said the driveway apron ramp should be contained within the street buffer zone to avoid a cross slope on the sidewalk or side path?
I don't believe that's my comment.
Well, there was a comment that said refer to complete streets. So maybe if you could do me a favor and just send the relevant provision of complete streets, that may be helpful.
Yep, I can certainly do that. Okay. I'll point you to my comment on what section is complete streets that's talking about.
Okay, that's perfect. Then moving along to further to the south to the security kiosk. So there was a comment about planting additional canopy trees along either side of that. It's my understanding that we really are limited there because we're trying to protect a couple of the trees that are there, and therefore there's not room to add additional trees. The purpose of the kiosk, it's identified as a security kiosk, but it's also really to orient people coming into the site. I mean, this is a service. There's a service industry component to this project. And so when people, whether residents or visitors, come in, we want to be able to make sure that there's someone in the kiosk to meet them and to sort of direct them to where they need to go.
Will there be like an actual sort of gate that would need to be open?
No. We had discussed that way back, probably 2 or 3 years ago. No gate.
Okay, that's great.
But yeah.
Hey, Pat, to add in, if you do look at the site plans, there are some pretty large trees on either side of that entry. They are not in the renderings because if we put the trees in, it would hide all the buildings. So we kind of took them out on the architectural renderings. But if you do look at the site plan, you can see the large trees that are there.
And then thanks, Tim. Another comment about the kiosk, and Tim's going to be working on this, is try to bring the architecture more in line with the architecture of the marketing center. So we can certainly take a look at that. Then another comment that was the same reference number 27 was, there were a number of comments about the building design. So I'm not going to get into those now, but we'll talk about that when we meet.
Sure. Yeah. The design comments was for building 2.2, so we can definitely talk to the architects maybe.
Wait, I didn't hear the beginning what you said, that most of the comments were.
Most of the architectural comments was related to building 2.2.
Okay, so we should.
As you drive from the southern entryway, the gateway feature of it. I think I can mark it up on the exhibit to make it more clear. But we can discuss that.
Okay. Yeah, we will focus on that. And then the other item that we'll need to focus on is the building that's along Fernwood Road. And there was a comment about the wall along Fernwood. So that wall is a result of the below grade parking. It's as high as it is because we were actually trying to green it up in the front. And so there's some soil depth there that we were trying to accommodate. So, and we can't push the garage down further, otherwise we would have a interiorly sloped garage, which is not a good idea. So again, when we meet next week, we can hopefully talk about that in more detail.
Okay, so I recommend for that meeting, if we can have some sort of like a building section or street section that goes through the garage and the building and the street frontage, then I think makes the discussion more productive.
Okay, and I actually think that in connection with it was either the sketch plan or the preliminary plan, we did provide sections, but those now may be modified somewhat, so we'll
Yeah, the section that directly goes through that wall that you are talking about, because that 6-7 foot tall wall along the sidewalk is gonna create a very unpleasant environment for the people that are walking along the sidewalk. So that was kind of like raised the question for all of the reviewers.
Okay, we can work on that. Bike parking, I think we were remiss on this. So we have 48 long-term spaces required. 20 are in the existing garage. We did not identify where the remainder will be in phase 2 garage, but we will do that.
Thank you.
And then this is a confirmation question for the parking waiver. I think what you're asking is, so in connection with phase 1, we applied for a parking waiver because we were over parked because of the fact that the way the parking was coming online. And with phase 2, we are also going to be over parked. Is that your point, that we need to just carry that parking waiver through for phase 2?
Yes, yeah, because I think that waiver was clarified in the previously approved site plan is for that site plan. So I think we just need another waiver for this one.
Okay, got it. Surface parking, we noted that there were 7 parking spaces in the marketing center, and then the SOJ called them surface parking. The remainder are on-street parking spaces, so we can correct that in the SOJ. Do you need anything on the plans better identifying where those are located, or is it just a matter of revising the SOJ?
Yeah, just revising the SOJ, I think, resolves that.
Okay, we'll do that. Then road grades. There was a comment that we needed to do that. Now, this is a private road, so we weren't exactly clear on why that's necessary.
That's still something that we review. It won't be MCDOT, it would be park and planning, but we do need that submitted.
Okay. Same with what?
Site distance forms.
Yeah, so we provided site distance forms with the preliminary plan. So is something additional needed or from a different location? What are you looking for?
Did that include the access points to like the driveways in and out of the garages?
No, it did not.
Yes.
The site distances were just for the access points into the actual site.
Yeah, we need site distance for the access points within the site too.
Okay. And I guess going back to the road grades, I don't believe we provided road grades in phase 1. And in this case, we are over top of a garage, so the road will be all at one level. Is it still necessary to provide road grades for that Rock Spring Drive?
Yeah, I think we'd still want to see it just to close the loop on it.
Okay.
And then staying with that theme, the cross sections for the roads. They were provided previously. They may have changed slightly, but I think to the extent the site plan revised them, modified them, we did not believe that it was necessary to go back and amend the sketch or I guess they were submitted with the preliminary plan probably.
Right. Yeah, it was part of the preliminary plan. There was a condition number related to modifications, 6B from the preliminary plan.
Okay.
I think if you can just explain why those modifications were made, we can just start there, like what the modifications are, compare the two, and why those changes were made.
Okay, should that be done in the SOJ or?
Yeah, probably that would be the best place for it.
Okay.
And this is just for the main road that we're providing now?
For Rock Spring Drive.
Yeah, for Rock Spring. There are 2 sections that were included in this site plan.
Okay. And then this is sort of a general guidance question, and it was prompted by one of the comments along Fernwood in the garage. There were temporary stairs, and they were noted as such. And the comment was, "Why are these labeled temporary?" But they're temporary to the extent that the full phase 2 is not yet built out, because until the full phase is built out, we need those temporary stairs for fire egress. So the more general question for staff is, the plans are sort of progressive. Should these phase 2 site plans just show sort of the end state, or what's the best way?
Yeah, I think that was my comment. Yeah, I mean, for our purposes, I think what we're approving here is the ultimate condition of this development. If phase 2, I mean, obviously you're not gonna sort of have all of them come up exactly simultaneously. So I think if you wanted to show sort of how phase 1, I mean, maybe an existing conditions plan showing your sort of temporary stuff for phase 1 could tell that story if that's important. But yeah, it was just confusing for me to see things that were temporary but were included in phase 2 and sort of deciphering, if that's going to stay and which phase that temporariness is.
Well, it was, just to be clear, they all related to phase 2, but within phase 2, obviously all buildings aren't coming online immediately.
Right.
So they'll be staggered. So one way we could handle it is simply with like a parenthetical saying, to be eliminated upon full build out or something, because what we don't want is, say, the building along Fernwood, we build that, the stairs are there because they need to be, but they're not shown on the plan, and the inspector says, "What are these stairs for?"
Yeah, I think a note explaining the purpose of the temporary elements would go a long way.
Okay. Okay, so that was, well, I'm going to first ask our team whether there were any other comments that we had that I didn't address. Tim or Soltez folks?
I think you got my list, Pat.
Okay, good. Is it possible that we could identify a time to meet next week now, or should Natasha or someone send us some dates?
I can definitely follow up with some dates. I think we have
The date is Tuesday. We will
Oh,
follow up
right,
with
that's
them.
right.
Yes, we will
Yeah.
follow up with times, but it is next Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday.
Okay, so that was Parker talking, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So Parker, you'll send me some times that will work for you guys, and then I'll coordinate on our end.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay.
Hey, Pat, really quick, that driveway, I still don't see that comment on the driveway apron, but the section that I was referencing, which also includes something about the driveway apron ramp, incomplete streets is section 3.9 driveways.
Yeah, I think that's where I pulled it from, but okay, let me double check. I'll cross-reference what I had. Okay, we just want to make sure from a design standpoint, we're clear on what you're asking for. So we'll take a look at 3.9.
Yeah, and just reach out to me if you have questions on that.
Okay.
Yes, I guess the question is just real quick on the driveway apron. Are you looking for something similar to what is actually at the county building, the DPS and Park and Planning building at the garage entrance?
Not sure what you mean. What I'm looking for is that there is no grade change for pedestrians crossing the driveway, so that that you maintain the grade and the same material of the sidewalk across the driveway.
Okay, understood.
Okay. I think that was it. We're excited to get phase 2 moving.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll
Okay.
be in touch about meeting next week.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.